Hello, my name is Adrena and I am the owner and accountant here at Accounting by Adrena. And today I would like to talk about 8 ways to help your budget survive during this pandemic. Let's get right into it. Now, the first way that I want to make sure that you are aware is to stay grounded. There is a lot of information out there right now. There's a lot of news. There's press conferences daily. There are all sorts of ways that we can consume ourselves with the news and with this pandemic. And so within all of that consumption, I want to make sure that the forefront thought is that you need to stay grounded. I need to stay grounded. So what I have done in order to help myself stay grounded during this time is to only check the news in the morning. If I feel like I need to keep up with the news during that day, I will allow myself to watch the press conferences directly from those links, the White House press conference or my state or my local press conferences, if I feel like there's going to be some pieces of information that will help me stay updated. Otherwise, I only consume the news in the morning, and I can also read about the news on my device. But otherwise, I have to cut myself off because I know that I can get caught up with that information overload. The second thing I want to make us aware of is to make sure our necessary bills are paid. So that includes rent. I think rent should be our first item on the forefront. Now, if this is such a huge budget buster for you right now, if you've lost your job or you're on unemployment and you just don't have enough cash to pay for rent, I would encourage you to talk to your landlord sooner rather than later. But ultimately, if it becomes a decision between feeding your family or paying for rent, obviously we need to make sure that we're feeding our family, right? So talk to your landlord. But for those of us who have not had a disruption in our income, I want to make sure that we are still paying rent, that we're still following through with those necessary bills. That also includes utilities. A lot of people have received California tax credits on their utility bills, and so that's great. It's like the government is looking out for us. They know that we're having a hard time, that we're all struggling during this time. Now, the third thing that I would like to offer to you today is to slow down on your debt payments. So I've mentioned before in previous videos on the idea that we should keep as much cash in our bank accounts as we can, keep those cash items liquid, okay? So that means that we can access those funds at any point in time. So along with that idea is to make sure that we're slowing down on our debt payments because we are trying to keep that cash item as high as possible. Now, federal student loans are on pause. So they have been on pause for 6 months now. So we're in April and it's going to be on pause through the end of September. And so that is a huge relief for those of us who do have federal student loans. And what I would say is if you have the ability to still pay for your student loans during this time, this is the ideal time for you to continue those minimum debt payments to your student loans. If you do not have the funds, then there is no penalty, there is no interest during this time. This is a federally mandated forbearance. So the other item that I want to make sure that we talk about is any kind of credit card debt or any other debts that you have out there, is to make sure that you're only paying the minimum. So any other portion that you would have put over and above the minimum payment, put that money into your savings account. Make sure you have that cash liquid in your bank account. That's going to be really key, especially if things change drastically in the coming months. Now, the fourth thing I want to offer to you is to put yourself on a spending freeze. Now, this is something that I have implemented in my life in March and in April. And so, for example, what I have done is basically cut out any unnecessary expense, any subscription expense. I've cut it all out, and any kind of extra dining out or extra grocery trips, I've cut them out as well. So I'm only going to the grocery store once every 2 weeks now. And as far as dining out is concerned, in March, I kind of cut that out completely. I only went once. And then in April, I'm giving myself a little more leeway for that, but I'm only going about 2 times during the month. And this is one of those ways that I can capture any kind of savings in my budget and throw that into my savings account or keep that cash in my checking account. Now, the fifth thing I've already alluded to is just to make sure that you have enough cash in your checking account. So I cannot stress this enough because this is actually one of those things that was like the very first piece of advice that I gave about a month and a half ago when things started going south. I'm just like, hold on to your cash, hold on to your cash. And what I mean by that is keep as much cash in your checking account, in your savings account, that you can access it at any time within the next few months. Like I said, we don't know which way this pandemic is going to go, and the best piece of advice that I can give you is lower your expenses. Make sure you have that cash padding in your checking account just in case. This is called an emergency fund, and we are in an emergency. So if you need to access those funds, you have those funds readily available. Now, the reverse of that is if you started putting more money into the market or into stocks or investments or whatever, you're not going to see that kind of return if you keep pulling it out. So leave your investments as they are. Don't look at them, don't touch them. Make sure you have enough cash in your checking account. Number 6 is to make sure that you conserve. So conserve. And let me just share with you some of the ways that I am going to be conserving during this time. I am doing my best to eat as much food as I have in my home, so I'm not going to be excessive when it comes to dining out or going grocery shopping. I am going to be eating less food so that I am just focusing on what I do have during this time. And I'm going to be drinking more water. So eat less food, drink more water. It's going to be healthy for us anyway, right? The second way that I am conserving is I'm just going to be wearing the same clothes over and over again until I feel like they've had their wear. I'm not going anywhere. I'm at home. So it doesn't mean anything if I wear the same yoga pants 3 days in a row. You know, I mean, it's going to cut down on laundry expenses. It's going to cut down on the wear and tear on my clothes. And all around, it's just going to be conserving. So that's one of the ways that I'm going to be conserving. I'm also going to be wearing less makeup. The only days I'm going to be putting on makeup is if I'm doing a YouTube video like I am today. So less makeup means all around less use of the makeup, which means I'm spending less money on makeup. Same with the clothes. These are easy ways that we can all wrap our heads around, like, how can we conserve during this time? Now, the 7th way, and I've already touched on this, is just don't touch your investment. Don't look at it, don't log online, don't cash it out, just leave it where it is. This is a natural part of the stock market. It goes up and down, it ebbs and flows, and we are in it for the long haul. So if you need to remind yourself that we are in this for the long haul, I want to help you remind yourself we are in this for the long haul. Okay, keep those investments where they are. Part of the upheaval that we're seeing is a lot of people, buying and selling. And so that kind of what makes those drastic highs and lows in the stock market. And that's something that we can just avoid by not touching it. And my 8th way to help you survive, help your budget survive during this pandemic, is to limit the amount of news that you are consuming. So I think part of it is we're just consuming a lot of information in a short period of time. Things are changing drastically. We feel the need to keep ourselves updated, and that's really not going to help our stress and anxiety levels. So try your best to limit the amount of news that you are consuming, and make sure that you are focusing on your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health during this time. Those are the things that are going to keep you going. Be well, friends. Stay safe. We got this.